Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Creator Circle. I'm your host, Lucy, and we're actually going to be doing something a little bit different today. You may recognize this face. This is Christian, my boyfriend. He was the first guest we ever had on the show on episode 2. If you haven't heard it yet, make sure to go back and check out that episode. But we had a last minute cancellation with the guest that was supposed to join us this week. And so what we're going to do instead is flip roles. Christian is actually going to be asking me the questions, and then we'll get and then we'll get back in with another guest next week. This is also actually the first time that we've ever filmed at night, so it's going to be interesting. Anyway, ready to get started?
Yes.
Cool.
Gotta switch roles.
Yes.
Hello. I'm your host, Christian. Had to do that. Well, today we're going to be interviewing Lucy.
Yeah.
Interviewing basically. So I came up with a couple questions. It was last minute. It's a little bit late, but we're gonna make it work. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's cool that you get to get interviewed on your own show.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. I think you didn't think about that if this hadn't happened, so that's a good idea.
Yeah, on the other side.
Yeah, sitting on my chair. How does it feel? Anyways, okay, so I guess the main thing I want to talk about is your t-shirts mainly. 'Cause that's like the main thing that you create. So why did you start a t-shirt business?
Yeah, so I think I'm not a very dressy or girly person. I mean, I grew up with 3 older brothers and my dad a majority of the time. So a lot of the clothes that I wore growing up, especially when I was younger, were hand-me-downs from my brothers, which were t-shirts and things like that. And I'm also a very big proponent of feeling comfortable in what you wear. So if I'm not comfortable in something and like I try to wear it, I feel itchy and just upset the entire day, and it literally impacts everything that I do. So I go back to something that's, comfortable and natural, which are t-shirts. And so the fun thing about t-shirts though is that there's so many different things that you can do with them. They're so versatile. You can tie dye, you can add new designs, you can change up the colors. And so
And they're comfy.
They are comfy, exactly. And the problem is though that in today's world with, the consumer market, t-shirts, which are really inexpensive actually, are super expensive. You go to some of these stores like Urban Outfitters, I don't mean to call anybody out, but their t-shirts literally cotton $40, $30, and you just know that especially for a corporation that big, it's not that expensive for them to actually produce. And so I wanted something comfortable, I wanted something affordable, and then I wanted something that really represented what I, like and the things that I like to do. And so I wanted to make designs that represented that. And that's kind of where it all started.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. And for you guys that don't know, she makes shirts.
I do, yes.
Check out the website.
I'm wearing one right now, actually.
Yes. I feel like
you are not.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Let me just exit. All right, cool. Why did you call it Made by May?
Yeah, so if you don't know, it is called Made by May. It's Made by May, you can see here. And my middle name is actually May, so I'm Lucy May. And I really wanted something that had a little bit of alliteration to it. I think that those things are a lot easier to remember, and it just kind of flows off the tongue. And so when I was thinking about my name, Lucy, I couldn't think of a lot of things. And yeah, but that's also a show.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really go with like a brand.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
But and the other really important component of my shirts are that they're handmade or hand-drawn designs that I do myself. So I'm not reproducing somebody else's design. I'm not using anybody else's work. I'm hand drawing it and then putting them on the shirts physically myself. And so
literally made by me.
Yeah, literally made by me. And I like the way it sounds.
Yeah, I do too.
I think mainly.
I don't even help her with that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's cool. So when it comes to like I feel like I'm trying to think about your answer before I ask it.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'm going to. But what inspired your first design?
Yeah, so initially it was actually, there are a lot of first designs that didn't actually make the cut. And what originally happened is that I created a couple different ones, again, that did not make the cut. that I shared with friends and family just to get a general interest. And obviously, everybody that's your friend or your family up front, they're going to tell you that they support you and that they want you to do this and pursue this. And so, it was a positive reaction from everyone. And then I did a lot of refining to get to what was actually my first real release. I would say that my first design first that stuck that I really kept with is actually my Highway to Healthy, and it's inspired by the Houston highway system. If you're familiar, it's a monster and very unique. And so it's actually a map of the Houston highway system. Not literally, but you can see like the roads, and then on top it says Highway to Hell. And so I think that's one of my first designs that actually that I kept with and that I'm still selling today.
Yeah, nice, makes sense. Yeah, it's one of my favorite ones. It's yeah, it's a good definition. It's a highway to
Yeah,
hell. It's literally.
yeah.
Um, so I guess being more broad, where do you get your inspiration for like all of your designs? Like, do you think they all have a common thing, or are they all just like, do you sit there and you think about something and get an idea and you make it, or do you try to tie everything that you make to all be like in the same kind of category?
Yeah, so that's actually something that I struggle with because as a brand, you want to stick to your values and your brand identity, and you don't want to stray from that too much, or else then what's the point of the brand? And initially, when I first started Made by May, it was intended to be a Texas inspired line. And so Highway to Hell inspired by Houston. A lot of my other teas are also inspired by Houston, which
The
is
city.
yeah, where I'm from and where I am now.
Yeah.
And I also just think that Houston is such a unique place. Obviously, I've never lived anywhere else, but I've been other places. And I just think that Houston has this kind of culture about it that you can't describe unless you've been here or lived here. And so I took that and I use that in a lot of my inspiration.
Yeah.
But to your point, like, do they all fit that mold? Do they not? And again, that goes back to, do I maintain this idea that it's a Texas brand? It's Texas inspired, Houston inspired. Well, sometimes I do fall to what I'm, interested in the moment. I recently not became a Christian, but became a lot more involved in Christianity and was just learning a lot. And, a lot of what I was learning really moved me. So I've come out recently with a few designs based on biblical
Versus.
verses. Yeah. And then, there's always like the popular things that are going on in culture. Like, for example, the Astros won last year, which is kind of like Houston and Texas inspired, but it was a spur of the moment idea.
Yeah.
Same thing with like the holidays. I'm a big Christmas person, so I had a really large Christmas line.
Valentine's Day and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So, it's a complicated and slippery slope, but I want to provide a variety. And I want everybody to be able to enjoy and like and wear my teas.
Yeah.
And Houston doesn't represent everybody, but it does represent quite a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where I get stuck. But
No, I think what you're saying sounds good. It's not really getting stuck. You're trying to reach more people,
mhm,
that are not just, there's a lot of people that live in Houston that are not from Houston,
mhm,
so I won't really touch them as much.
right.
So when you release different kind of stuff that doesn't just have to do with Texas or stuff, it will reach more people as well,
Yeah.
And so I think it's good, a little bit of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you said that that's pretty like something that you kind of run into a little bit, like figuring out what to drop and stuff. But out of probably, I've seen it, so I know it's a lot. There's a lot of work that comes into it. But what would you say is your hardest obstacle when it comes to, doing what you do?
Yeah. Definitely getting out there. And I don't mean in the sense of like physically getting out there or putting myself like being vulnerable and putting out designs and things like that. I'm pretty good about coming up with new things and releasing them. But literally getting noticed. I think in today's world with all of the technology and social media and so many influencers and trending ideas and all this stuff, it's really easy to think, okay, it happens overnight, or it's in a matter of seconds and you'll get found, or there's an algorithm that, and you just have to figure it out and it's going to work out for you. it's really not that easy, especially being somebody who's this is a side hustle. I have a full-time job the rest of the week, so it's not like I can dedicate every second, every hour to what's trending. So getting known and getting out there has definitely been the hardest thing that I've come up against, and I haven't even overcome it yet. I'm still dealing with that, but I think it comes with the waters.
Yeah, the thing is, like you said, like it's something that a lot of people come into this perspective where, like, okay, I'm gonna start this, and then it's gonna just go like shoot. People, it's gonna blow up. People are gonna be super into it, and it's especially with what you're doing specific. I think that what you're doing is super special, and it's very different. But there's so many people doing t-shirts right now, or so many
Hmm.
people doing just all kinds of clothing, and it's like probably, in my opinion, more trendy than it was 10 years ago. I don't
Right.
remember getting on the internet and seeing people make shirts. So
Hmm.
it's a little bit harder when you're not only doing something while you're in a full-time job, but you're doing something that a lot of other people are doing right now as well. Um,
Yeah.
so it makes it a little bit it makes it a little bit harder. But I think that I'm a big supporter of like time. So I think that the more time that you don't give up, the more that you invest, the more that you invest, it will pay off.
Right.
So I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. And to your point, there's a lot of people out there that are making t-shirts today. And I just want to, I mentioned it briefly before, but what makes me different is that I'm not copying and pasting somebody else's work. I'm not, and I wish it could be that easy all the time, but I'm a really big proponent of, you know, doing your own work and letting other people's property, what they've designed, what they've created, let it be theirs and not to take credit for it. And so that's what diversifies me in this market, and that's hard to
Yeah.
get known for. But yeah, everybody else I feel like are taking the same fonts, the same
Yeah.
designs, the same everything, and just reproducing it. And obviously there's a market for that, and I'm not going to pretend like I don't like them, but as an individual I want to stick to the value of this is mine, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm putting out there, and I'm not going to copy somebody else.
I'm serious, guys. She stands there for hours, standing up, just having to be super specific. We had like an event for my gym, and they have so we do corporate wellness programs, and for one of our corporate wellness accounts, they have a very specific kind of logo.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the butt, right? It's a really cool logo, but it's a pain in the butt, especially to get it down on a shirt. And she made, for how many shirts you made? It's like
Like
20
20.
shirts over a span of like a week, right? Working a full-time job and having to do them like, I don't even know what these tools are called or anything, but just you gotta think, yeah, this specifically, like I didn't even realize how hard it was until I saw it. I was like, what in the world? Like specifically put it on the shirt, then heat it at the right moment. Like it's just, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I'll give you a lot of credit because I think that was the first time that when I saw you doing that order, I was like, dang, that's pretty hard. Um,
Yeah, well, and I think the internet again makes it really look easy. There are these reels that are what 10, 15 seconds and it looks so simple,
you know,
but when you actually sit down and do the work, it takes a lot more. You have to be very patient
yeah.
for
So
sure.
if you don't have patience, t-shirt business is probably not something you should be doing.
Right.
But yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's pretty awesome how you do that. Talking about that, like how long does it normally take you to complete a design? Like say I'm talking like the entire process, like from creating a design, drawing it up to putting it on a shirt. How long does it take you?
Yeah, so I think that it really varies. It depends on how motivated I am, how tired I am, how inspired I am, what else is going on in my life. Like I said, I work a full-time job.
Yeah,
So obviously I can get inspired at any day or time. And honestly, frequently it happens when I'm at work in the moment when I can't do anything. And so that hinders it a little bit. And then once you get home and you've got other just, home tasks that you have to take care of, you have to eat dinner, take care of the dog and stuff like that inspiration kind of wanes, your motivation, you're
slips
tired.
off. Yeah,
So it all plays a role. But if I'm super inspired, super motivated, and have the time right then and there, I can knock out a design in as little as like 15 minutes. And then if I have shirts on hand and everything that I need, all the materials and everything, um, you have to pre-wash the shirt. So that's kind of
yeah.
that takes some time. But I would say if the shirt was already washed and I had everything on hand, I could probably knock everything out in under an hour for just one shirt.
Okay.
But like I said, those are all variables and a lot of things can impact that and it could be a much slower process. It's funny because I'm a perfectionist, so if I don't get a line right, like I go back and do it 10 times, as many times as I need to get the line right. And so that can also take more time. But it's funny, the program that I use to actually create my designs, like I said, they're hand drawn. So I'm literally doing it by hand. It does a recording of a time lapse essentially of your design and it shrinks it down to 30 seconds and it makes it look like it was so quick.
Yeah.
In reality, I probably start something, set it down, pick it back up in a few days, finish it out, and not satisfied, go back and change something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think all in all, before I will release a shirt to the public, it's probably 2 or 3 weeks time.
Okay.
And obviously that's upfront on me in actually doing it. And then also you usually get the benefit of, do you like it? What would you change? What can I do to improve it?
I'm actually the head of this business. I approve and deny some, so you guys didn't know. Really
Yes.
sneaky peek. No, yeah, man, that's awesome. I think you come out with some really good designs. It'll be like 11 o'clock at night or 12, and she's on her tablet next to me. I'm trying to go to sleep. It's like this bright screen, and she's just editing, erasing, and doing this, doing that. And I always think it's pretty cool. I think it's really cool that you sit there and you just think of all these different ideas because I think honestly everybody thinks about ideas throughout the day, even when you're like your subconscious mind doesn't really tell it to you. But like I know I think about a bunch of things in my head throughout the day that I could write down and maybe make it something big, but I don't do it, or I don't think about, hey, let me take my tablet out and write this out or do that. So I think it's really cool that you're like you not only think it but you do it. So I think that's the hard part. A lot of people don't do is they think it but they don't actually,
Act on it.
yeah, they don't act on it.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I wish more people did act on their creative and inspired
Yeah.
moments because kind of the point of this podcast is to present the idea that pursuing creativity and doing those kind of creative acts is what brings out the best parts of ourselves and maybe the world would be a little bit better with your art in it too. So just don't don't let it go to waste.
Don't settle your ideas.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we kind of also already talked about how you come up with the designs, right? Or like actually no, we didn't really talk about that. So like yeah, you said you get it like really when you're at work, but you work at a marketing firm. So how do you think about
Well, it doesn't happen so much at work, but a lot of times when I'm driving, I listen to a lot of music. I listen to podcasts, sometimes audiobooks, observing the environment around me. So, for example, my H Town T is actually the Houston skyline front a sunrise, and that actually came from I used to always take this turn getting to work on the freeway and I get in pretty early around like 7 or 8 a.m. depending, and I would watch the sunrise behind the buildings, and that inspired me to create this tea. And so it didn't happen at work, but it was on the way to work, and then I got to work, and I was like, I have to write it down.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but observing and just listening, that's what usually sparks some kind of idea. But then also, I don't usually release a lot of these designs because again, I don't want to come into any kind of copyright infringement or play off of somebody else's ideas, but we're big movie people. We watch a lot of movies, we go to a lot of concerts, and I'm really passionate about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if I really like a movie or I really like a certain artist, I think of a lot of ideas that I could do related, but I don't want to get even, just an inch too close and then fall into that gray space. Okay. So I usually don't release things like that, but I come up with a lot of ideas for them for sure.
Yeah. I think it's awesome that you don't do that because there's so many people on the internet that do that. Like that I just look at it and I'm like, how does this guy have Iron Man like shorts? Like it's so it's cool because I've tried to tell her to make me some shirts like that, but it's already something that's been created, so I like that you really stick to your word on that. Like you're not going to create something that's already been created.
Right.
And that's pretty cool. I think that's cool. So now you just got to work on a new Iron Man. Do you ever want to sell anything other than shirts? Like, do you want to add more things to your clothing line or like make it a clothing line or is it just all the t-shirts?
Yeah, so it goes back to those values. I want to be cool, comfortable, and affordable. So I wouldn't ever produce anything that's really rigid or anything that's uncomfortable, anything that you might wear. And I'm not going to say that I don't want this to be taken in the wrong light, but something that you might wear to dress up feel like those things are not really as comfortable. I
Yeah.
want you to be able to wear these like doing whatever you
Grocery
want.
shopping,
And
mowing
so
the lawn.
I would think I've actually thought about doing hats, baseball caps. I did some hoodies, crew neck tees. I might branch out into something as simple as sweatpants with like a logo or something. But back to what we were saying earlier, I'm working on getting out there and getting inspired. So I want to get the first part, which is the t-shirts, down first and really build that out before I start pursuing those other ideas.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of something else as well.
Nice. Yeah. I think the shirts is the biggest part of it. I think it's probably the best part of it too. But yeah, I think that branching out a little bit more in the future would be cool too. Because you've created really cool like designs when it comes to shirts. And we know when it gets cold, people are gonna want to wear hoodies, and
Yeah.
then also hats are just huge. Like I wear a hat almost every day, so it's
Right.
like I think a hat would definitely be up there too. Kind
Yeah.
of make a matching.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, nice. Let me see. I'm trying. So this one I feel like I've asked in a lot of ways, but like apart from thinking about your business and apart from thinking about all of that, what inspires you every day? Because I know like that's like it's a pretty broad question, but you do a lot, right? You work a full-time job. We're here doing this right now. You're trying to do these podcasts. You're doing these podcasts. You're doing your t-shirt business, and there's only 24 hours in the day every single day. So like, what inspires you to keep going? Like, what helps?
Yeah. So what inspires me to keep going? Um, it's hard. Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes I don't want to have to do everything. And a lot of the times it's not that I don't want to do this or made by May, it's that I don't want to do what else I'm doing. For example, working all day long. But I think what inspires me to keep pursuing these passions is really that even from a young age, I always knew that, and this is kind of strange for young kids to think about, but I always thought about like when I get older and I get married and I have kids, like I want to be able to like take care of it. I don't ever want anybody to feel like, they can't, not that they can't have something. I don't want them to be spoiled, but I don't want them to feel like, you can't go to college or you can't have this experience, or I don't want them to ever feel behind. And so I've always wanted to be present a very stable life for my
Yeah.
family. And so that, and then also I've always wanted to make a positive impact. I think, I really love people as individuals. I think that we're all really unique and that we all have something positive to present to the world. And I want to give fellow creatives, and Made by May is a little bit different, but I want to give everybody a space to, present their best parts of themselves and get out there. And I think that, making that difference and helping others, and yeah, that really also drives me. I don't know that it really has anything to do with making t-shirts, but you know,
No, yeah, I think it does have a lot to do with making t-shirts because, like what you said, it's hard. And a lot of people would have given up, and just like, throwing the towel. Because, like you said, you have another full-time job, so it's not like your livelihood depends on this t-shirt business, right?
mhm.
But you really want it to work. So you're putting in a lot of effort to it. Same thing when it comes to this podcast. I think it's great that you like, it's about people and everybody. I never really thought about that, like I was like, now I'm like actually sitting here thinking like, what did this person create? What did this person create? Right. And everybody creates something. You can turn anything in their life into something that they create,
Mhm.
I think it's really cool. I think it's a really cool concept. And I think that honestly, with that question being said, like you inspire me. I think everything you're saying right now is like, it's beautiful, especially with this world, that we're living in right now. A lot of people don't really seem to care too much about people. It's mainly about just materialistic things and problems with the world, and it's never about people anymore. So I like this. I like what you're doing. I think it's really cool. I think it's a really
Yeah,
beautiful thing.
thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah, I want, you and I have a lot of big dreams and big goals that we want to achieve, and I want to be able to do those things.
yeah, definitely cool. Cool. But I did run out of questions. Um,
Yeah.
I am not going to be your host every time. Don't get scared. But it was great to be able to interview you.
Yeah.
I did my best. I hope I
You pass.
Yeah, thank you.
You
It's
pass.
hard after she used the host. How am I supposed to? But yeah, I think that's it for my questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for flipping the switch with me and taking on my role this week. Again, unfortunately, we had a last minute cancellation and last minute emergency come up. Hopefully, we are still able to get that guest in, but we'll have another guest next week. And just remember, episodes drop weekly on Wednesday, so tune in again for whoever we're talking to next.
And go buy a shirt.
Yes, check out Made by May.
Bye.
Bye.